This week on page 180, it is time for us to say goodbye to Jesse and say hello to Soundview Stadium as we discuss the finale of The Last of Us Season 2. We've wrapped up every episode in this series, and Season 1, of course, was the show that started page 180 as well. So emotional to be saying goodbye until probably mid to late 2027, it's looking like at this stage. But there's no one person that I'd rather say goodbye with. He was there, obviously, for the original, and he's helped me cover this series as well. And hopefully we'll be chatting again in 2020. Well, we'll be chatting. We're not going to fall out as friends, but hopefully we'll be chatting on this podcast in 2027 or some other podcast. Maybe one with listeners would be great. Ladies and gentlemen. No, I love our 8 listeners. I do. They're great. They are. They're the best. They don't reach out very often, but you know they're there. They exert soft power. Kev Keen, you're very welcome.
Thanks, man. Hello, listeners.
Sorry, I just came out swinging at our listeners. Apologies. And I did it last week as well. I personally named one listener and then roasted them for 5 minutes. Key Hanley, shout out. But Kev, I've got a question for you, right? And I know you're the person.
Is it getting back to Andor?
I know. No, we're not getting back to Andor. Andor's done. I'm over it. I'm over it. And I'm even I loved Andor, but I'm over even annoying Keith Hanley about it. That's when you know I'm past the TV show.
Okay.
When I will use it to annoy Keith Hanley. No, I've got a question for you that I know you're the man to answer this, okay? It's the apocalypse and you're stuck in Seattle. Where would you most like to live? Would you prefer to live in a makeshift island with your cults? Would you prefer to live in a theater or a stadium? And I'm purely talking, I'm not talking about the setup or the work. I'm talking about the environment. If you could set up shop as a blank slate, what would the setting be where you'd most like to live and why?
I mean, I play in a band. It's got to be the theater, man. That theater looks fucking sick. It has to be
maybe you'll say something.
Get to live in the dressing room, fucking yeah, man. Get to see your face in lights every day. It's class. And plus they
would it not be depressing if you were by yourself though, playing gigs to no one? You'd have to imagine it. You'd have to go insane.
Do you know what I would be doing? I would be getting all of the bodies of those Sephirites and just filling the seats. So I would have a packed dead audience every single night.
It'd fucking stink. It'd stink. It'd become insufferable. I'm not living in the theater with you, man.
They'd be my stink though. They're my people.
Nice.
Yeah. Stink. They're my crew. Also, it might put people off. They're like, what the fuck is going on with this dude? He's gone insane. Let's keep the fuck away from him.
Yeah. He has all those nice smelling corpses in the audience. You know that rose tinted formaldehyde smell that we all know and love.
I need an audience every night, Ger. So what about you? Where would you go?
Yeah, that's what
stadium.
I mean.
You have to be
in
stadium.
Your own personal hell. I probably am stadium. I do like the idea of living outdoors and kind of making my own society. If you're gonna go, if you're in the apocalypse, go all in, change your lifestyle. Do you know what I mean? And try something new for the apocalypse. So I wouldn't mind. I'm not mad about the cult. I don't even like Catholicism, but stadium. You have your conveniences. It's probably the most comfortable. You could probably get loads of fun. You go down and play with the dogs. It's probably it probably would lean that way. But I do like the ambience of kind of a not deserted island, but kind of a makeshift island with huts and fires every night and telling stories and living in a community. Stadium seems a bit clinical. Theater. If it was a cinema theater and they had access to old rails, done. But I don't think it is. I think it's a rock theater, so
yeah,
it'd just be depressing eventually.
You also never mentioned there was dogs in the stadium, and that changes everything.
There is dogs in the stadium. There's a whole cage of them. Yeah.
I mean, I would be tempted to the stadium then.
Well.
Yeah.
There's a video
Uh,
game spoiler. That's the last video game spoiler for this episode, guys. Don't worry. We will have a video game discussion at the very end, but we that is the last video game spoiler I'll give you on this, guys. We will be spoiling everything else though. We will be spoiling all of the episodes to this point. We are going into the spoilerverse after all. So if you haven't seen the season finale of The Last of Us, make sure you go away, watch it, and come back and then listen to our thoughts on it. We're going to discuss episode 7, sparking a lot of debate. People either loving or hating this episode. It's very interesting. So we're going to give our thoughts, but before we do, as always, we are going to break down the episode, put you back into the mindset, just in case you're binge listening to us, because a lot of people like to binge watch TV shows these days. And we will do so the way we always do, by our alt recap of the episode. And back at the theater, we learned that Dina is the friend that you learn is pregnant because they turned down the opportunity to drink a single time ever, aka the alcoholic of the gang. The thing with your likable alcoholic friend, though, is they probably have awful tasting partners, and Dina is no different. As she realizes she's with a person who low-key sat on the fact that their makeshift father figure did a mass murder and prevented a global cure to the pandemic, and was bought off by misspelled cakes and old cassette tapes of Apollo launches. As well as being that partner, Ellie is also the worst at keeping other people's secrets and spills to Jesse about the pregnancy, I don't know, about 45 seconds after they left to go find Tommy. They stopped by a bookstore Tommy had set as the rendezvous spot, where Ellie picked out a cool gift for the baby. Jesse was like, damn, I'd have never thought of that. I did just whine about how life is a pointless slog to them. And then on cue started waxing lyrical about a girl he knew for about 2 weeks. Like, yeah, I totally didn't want Dina anyway. I met a better girl once on holidays. On their way to find Tommy, they hear the sound of a sniper rifle that can only come from one of the Miller brothers. But Ellie sees the hideout of her new hated rival and is like, Joe would have wanted me to let his brother die in order to avenge him. So they end up separating. Her plan immediately goes tits up as she's almost hanged and gutted by Sephiroths, but escapes when their village comes under attack. She arrives at the aquarium to find 2 of Abby's crew who murdered Joel, debating whether to escape with Abby or not. Ellie would have made one hell of a shot in the Wild West days, as she gets in a quick draw standoff where she actually kills 3 people, including a fucking baby, with one shot. The good, the bad, and the Ellie, am I right? Tommy and Jesse arrive literally seconds after they would have been really useful and take her back to the theater, where they agree that their trip to Seattle had gone like many a night out in Copperface Jacks in my 20s. I had grand ideas of what I was going to do and have all these amazing plans, but I just end up crying into garlic cheese fries, feeling like a failure by the end of the night. And just like when you're about to cry into garlic cheese fries in the chipper in peace, sometimes a stupid fight ends up interrupting all of it, because Abby's back and she sends Jesse into the giant friend zone in the sky while holding Tommy at gunpoint. We'll have to find out how that goes next season in 2 years, because it cuts to black to the sound of a gunshot as we flash back to Seattle Day 1 and Abby waking up in a stadium that, yes, is based on where the Seattle Seahawks play in the NFL, so we can infer that it also smells of Skittles and the hope that things are better next season, which is kind of poignant, I think, because that was season 2 of The Last of Us, specifically episode 7, Convergence, directed by Nina Lopez Corrado. There we go, Kev. That's it. Entire season wrapped up. We're coming back to reality after last week, kind of, and the amazing kind of bottle episode we got. Flashing back, and we got kind of another taste of the Joel and Ellie relationship that makes this show sing. But unfortunately, it is probably the last we're going to see of Joel. How did you think they did kind of getting back to reality with that in mind? Because again, I think we were both on the same page that the season was good. But there were moments that were lacking because we weren't getting that fix of the core relationship that we had. So now we have that perspective and we're going back. What were your thoughts on Convergence?
I was how would I describe this? I did like the episode a lot. I don't know what people are if it is divided. I didn't see anything really that divided about it. Um, I did quite like the episode. I thought it had some problems with pacing and letting or making the audience do a lot of work in terms of storytelling. And kind of filling in gaps and I don't know if it's because some of the they're pared down to 7 episodes and they have to be very tight in their editing. But for the most part, yeah, I thought this was a great episode. I thought it was a very much a great return to how the game looks and feels. Like when they're going through Seattle, I love every second that the camera is just panning around and you get to see. Like I just personally love nature taking over uh just old buildings and stuff as well. But I thought even they're in one building at one part of it where they heard Tommy's sniper rifle going off, and just from the games you're just like those office floors and you can just see out one of the massive windows as well. They just nail the aesthetic of this so much that even if the story is I don't think is up to par as it should be, just being in this world, I just really love it. And I think that was my favorite part of the episode is just being back in Seattle and in the world. Um, but yeah, I do have a couple of complaints about the story, but the story beats, I suppose, more than anything else. But bar that, because I haven't played the game as well this far, there was a lot of shocking moments for me in this, which I loved having those moments. Um, yeah, I don't know if you want to get into any specific part of it like first, but overall, I quite liked the episode.
We'll tip through the specifics. We will.
Yeah.
We'll tip through the specifics. We just want to get high level kind of now, and then we'll kind of dive in. For me, I thought this reminded me of a show that we probably end up discussing more than it's worth on this show,
Mm.
Mythic Quest. Do you know
Oh
what they
yeah.
do there? We always talk about how they do their one amazing kind of bottle episode, which is a flashback and kind of it's kind of just a zany comedy for the most part, but then they do a dramatic episode, and we always say it's the best episode on television, just to show they can, and then they go back to normal. Um, and that's not necessarily a criticism because you like the normal of the show. That's why you're watching, but it's so jarring to get this amazing dramatic episode that
Mm.
shifts back. And that's kind of how I felt here. I'm like, oh yeah, we're back to normal. And I'm very much like you. I was just nodding in agreement as you were saying. I just love being in this world. I love the
Mm.
look. I love just and it showed us that so well. Like it does long shots where like how did the bridge end up falling on the building? Do you know what I mean? You're just
Yeah.
looking at everything and like the visual is telling you a story of how the world fell apart, and they craft that so well that they don't feel a need to explain it. They just let it be there and be like, I'm gonna let you fill in the gaps. And they've done bits where they're like, oh, this is the part where the army bombed the entire area and stuff like that. So you have an idea and you can fill in the blanks. But for people like you and me who love these kind of post-apocalyptic stories, that's the shit we dine out on because the
Yeah.
imagining of what would happen and how and what stages and this and that, it does very well. And I like the characters, I like the interplay, I like the acting in this. Um, I thought this was a I thought this gave the main story back momentum that it was maybe missing. Like we have a lot of purpose now as well after that episode last week as well. We kind of understand the characters a lot better. I could have done with a lot of them being fleshed out. Like for example, we lost Jesse, and I want to get into that in full. And I'd love to see an episode like that where, or at least like just even a clip or two where I got to know Jesse a bit better instead of
Yeah.
having him just give us a monologue of his backstory. But I like, and that's what I feel. I don't feel there's anything wrong with the show. I just feel like there's parts in it that I'd like more of to see, to actually feel the way I want to feel. But also at the same time, we're at that brilliant part of the story where all the secrets are starting to come out. You know what I mean? You have Ellie at the start of the episode just spilling everything to Dina, and then there's the kind of tension of, well, you kind of have to tell like Jesse that you're immune or something here now. You know what I mean? Like all of this is starting to come out, and our characters then have to deal with it, and their feelings are going to start coming into play. Um, I also really liked how they made the deaths feel consequential in this, despite us not getting much time with the likes of Owen and Mel. I
Mm.
don't feel like that's the last we're going to see them. I feel like it's going to be more in hindsight, but um, we got basically what one long scene with them, two long scenes with them beforehand, and not much character work. And yet we felt when they died, particularly the Mel side of things.
Oh my
Um,
God, yeah.
I also really like, and this is the part I'd like to discuss with you. like the theme of what is a good person, and that's a huge part of The Last of Us in general. Like, it's based on the entire conceit is based on like Joel's actions, and this is what the second story is driven by: Joel's actions at the end of season one. And is he a good person for that, or is he a horrible person? Like in his mind, he's saving his daughter, and I think if we were in Joel's shoes, he's making the decision a lot of us would make. If our daughter's in danger and about to die, we're going to kill everyone in our way, But also the consequences of that make him a bad person. And what I love is how everyone in this believes they're being the good person. You literally have um, Ellie and Jesse kind of having this argument out there. You have Isaac even protecting his people. You have the Seraphites who just want to be left alone to their cult, but they feel like they have to behave a different way and become these kind of barbaric people because they're being attacked. We had that scene with Isaac and the Seraphite arguing earlier in the season as Isaac is torturing him, going, "Well, you killed the kids," and it's like, "Well, you attacked this and you did this and you did that," and no one can even remember who's the bad person, but they both believe they're the victims. You have Ellie avenging Joel's death. You have Jesse, Dina, and Tommy. They're supporting their friend. Yet at some stage throughout all of this, pretty much everyone involved commits or at least allows atrocities to happen against probably other decent people. What do you think makes a good person in this world? Like, where does your moral compass end up falling on this? Like, who's good, who's not? Like, how's that sitting with you?
It's I don't know, it's kind of like in life where everybody thinks that they're the main character of the story. It's
Mm,
no different than in the show where like you said, where Joel killed everybody in the hospital because he's the main character in his story, but like the what this show and what the game is doing as well is showing the consequences of that, of like, well, what if Abby's the main character of this story, or what if the her dad was? So like they're everybody thinks what they're doing is for the good, but it's this show is just like actions have consequences, and like I guess in post-apocalyptic world, rules are not as black and white, I think, as they are when there's a like a proper society. Um,
yeah,
and even though they are trying their best to kind of bring a society back to it's like Seattle, or if it's Jackson, or even the Sephirotes as well. Um, there's a lot of kind of like we do go back to like a very primal kind of instinct, I think, as well, of trying of doing the right thing and handing out justice, I think, as well. So nobody, this is
yeah,
the best thing about the show. Like no, there is no wrong or right really here with anybody. They've all done some pretty horrific and horrendous things in the name of doing good, but it's like that's the best part of this show, man. So yeah, that's
yeah. It's very much dependent on whose shoes you're standing in while you make the decision, and
yeah.
that's I think what separates this from. Again, I'm watching, struggling through the second season of The Walking Dead, Dead City, and it's awful because they just feel so compelled at every stage, and it's making me hate everything that I liked about The Walking Dead. Because it's reminding me of it's just amplifying what The Walking Dead did a little bit subtler, but it's like everyone's bad. It's like you meet someone and it's like, I'm just a nice person and I'm here to help you until you fall asleep and I'm gonna eat you. You know what I mean? And it's just like spelling it out for the audience of this person bad, our hero's good. Whereas what this does very well is no matter who you look at, the Sephirotes are just trying to walk with their children and teach them their ways and their religion, and they're entitled to have their religion as long as it's not harming anyone else. But then they're ambushed by these scumbags that are killing children. But those scumbags as well are getting shot, and their children are probably dying as well. So
Mm.
maybe they're not scumbags. And those scumbags, by the way, they had the people in them who could have killed Ellie when they killed Joel, but they decided, no, we're just here to kill Joel, so we'll let Ellie live. So there is a moral code, and they're supposedly the closest thing we have to bad guys here. And for me, I think I'm a believer that there is no such thing as a good person. A good person is an aspiration. It's not a form of existence. You know what I mean? It depends for me very much on your intent. And your intent in the moment is to do the right thing. And if you're hoping to do the right thing by you, then your intent is good. But that's the tragedy of life, that we can do the things that we think make us a good person, we think make us decent. Um, but actually, like, if anything, the only person I struggle to defend in this, and this is what's interesting, is Ellie. Like, Ellie is the one person that I'm constantly like, wrong, wrong, wrong decision, like at every point. And she's supposedly our hero, you know?
Yeah.
Um, which is the one person I'm like, you're indefensible. I can see Ali's point, or Abby's point. This is going to happen a lot where I'm going to call her Ali. I can see Abby's point. I know why she killed Joel. I don't necessarily disagree with the decision, even if I love Joel as a character. Um,
Yeah.
and I can stand over that. And also, I'm we'll have a lot of discussions in season three because they've tipped their hats that season three is going to be very Abby focused. Um, I'm a very pro Abby guy, and that causes controversy within the kind of Last of Us kind of discourse. Um, but I totally get her perspective. I don't get Ellie's perspective. I'm like, and even in the alt recap, I was like, yeah, that's what Joel would have wanted, to let his brother die so he can be avenged when he's already dead. Do you know what I mean? Every decision she makes is wrong. And her intent is always the most selfish. And the people that see Ellie the clearest are the likes of Gale. Like, Gail has Ellie nailed, where
Yeah.
she's like, she's just a selfish kid. She's probably a psychopath. She's a fucking idiot. You know what I mean? And she's a liar. And but that's really interesting that our hero is probably, in the podcast they described, in the official podcast with Craig Mason, Neil Druckmann, they described this as Ellie's villain era. And I'm like, yeah, yeah,
Well,
she
like
doesn't need to
her
become a villain.
her
What's that?
confession even to Dina, where she said basically that she liked hurting Nora,
Yeah,
um, was like a very much a yeah, this is she is a villain in this right now as well. Like, because she's like, well, not even well, maybe not like so far as like a villain, but like she's definitely gone full psychopath though with that, and like the oh now your need for revenge is really kicked in. It's just weird that we got here and it should have been a build up rather than a love story and then bam, revenge Ellie. It's just it's
yeah,
an odd thing, but at the same time, if you're gonna do it, having her lose control in that moment against Nora and then confessing to Dina about it, I thought was interesting, and I thought it was kind of we've 7 episodes, and like going back to what you were saying earlier, I wish we could just spend more time with these characters. 7 episodes hurts this show a lot. This should be 8 or 9, so we do get those Jesse moments. We do get maybe a bit more time with Ellie, want be more Joel focused.
yeah.
Um, but she does kind of turn from zero to absolute psycho very, very quickly in this.
And there's no real connective tissue. Like, again, there's parts of this where like you say, they're leaving the audience to kind of fill in the gaps. You know what I mean? And
Mm,
that can be done really well. Like, again, loath to discuss it as I am for the sake of having Keith Hanley turn off, but Andor did that very well. Like, very subtly. You know, there's a little glance from one character to another, and you instantly are like, oh, what's happening there? You know, they don't feel the
mm,
need to spell everything out. But sometimes it's good to actually. You need to give us the motive, even if you do it subtly. You need to give us it. Like, last week, are we to infer that like the flashback episode is happening in her head? Is that where it's going? Do you remember when they did it? And they did this quite well in season one, where they did the Left Behind flashback with Riley, where it was inspired by her thinking about walking away from Joel when he needs her. And that brought her back to the Riley flashback. So we knew then at the end, when it went back to present day Ellie, this is what she's gone through in her head, and they're the memories that she's drawn upon. So that informs the decision that she makes to stay. Do you know? So are we doing fair from last week the fact that we ended on Ellie going back to the theater, that she's thinking about all of that, and that's what explains her being a psychopath? But I agree, the tonally it's been a bit strange. Um, let's talk a bit about Dina and Ellie, because Dina, like, I love Isabel. I love Isabel Merced and the performance she's given, but like the character Dina is very interesting as well, because she we spoke earlier on in the season about how she was being a bit mean to Ellie in kind of teasing her and flirting with her, but also being like, "But I'm straight and I'm back with Jesse." Ha ha ha. Ha.
Mm,
There was bits of that like where I'm like, I don't like that instinct. Like you seem at least like a bit of a melt. Um, she's also being a bit of consider that like we probably saw her last words to Jesse here. The father of her child. She's been a bit of a dick to him throughout this episode. Do you know what I mean? Um, and she's kind of just mistreating him, and that's not very likable either. This couple is not a couple of dreams. Maybe they're just like absolute dopes, and that's the thing because I don't think we're meant to dislike them as a couple. But Ellie as well, like kind of what makes her not a full villain is like she does question herself at least. Like she does have maybe Nora didn't deserve it. She had that beautiful, and Bella Ramsey delivered that brilliantly. When they were
yes,
like, maybe
she's
she
great.
didn't. She couldn't
Yeah.
even bring herself to fully say it. She just like Ellie just had to whisper it like. Um, but also for those keeping score, Ellie fitted like 5 to 10 years worth of trauma into 24 hours in this episode. She confessed about knowing about Joel to her partner. She accidentally killed a baby, and then she watched one of her best friends die, um, right in front of her. Um, yeah,
Right after
let's
they
let's
kind of got
talk
a
a
bit
bit
of
more
respect
about the
for each other.
descent of
Yeah.
kind of Ellie and how that's impacting the relationship with Dina, I suppose.
Um, hold on, Ellie's what Ellie's impact with Jesse, is it?
Like no, just Ellie's kind of descent. Like there is a lot going on there, and
Mm,
then there
Dina
seems to be a
Dina's
bit of a fracture with Dina. There was the olive branch that Dina gave her as she left. Like there was that moment where she's like, "Okay, yeah, look, take this, blah blah blah. It's gonna bring you good luck." So there was that part, but I don't know. There just seems to be Ellie is losing herself. I think we could see that now.
yeah. Ellie's losing herself, and then Dina, when she's talking with Jesse as well. I can't remember how it happens. I'm just trying to. There is a moment in this where I think they think someone's coming in through the door or something, and Jesse really takes control of the situation when Dina's panicking. It might be just Ellie.
Yeah,
Um,
Ellie and Jesse's like, "What's the name of your horse?" And Ellie's like, "Shimmer, let me the fuck in." That part.
yeah, but but
Yeah.
there's like Dina starts panicking, and Jesse, she's nearly like a kid, and Jesse has to be the one of like just calm the fuck down and shut up and completely takes the control of the situation. Um, and I think I don't know what they were trying to portray there, but like maybe like these are just two kids, and I think Jesse being that little bit older and having um a bit more, I suppose, perspective as well, having gone through all of that with Tommy too, is all just trying to find them in the first place. I love that actually, that bit of dialogue where Jesse and Ellie are talking, and he goes through how they found them in the theater as well, and what it took to find them too, and how dangerous it was, how many close calls that they had as well, and stuff like that. I suppose if you did have an extra episode, you could have done a Jesse and Tommy episode where they go through all that, but it's done in a line. But the look on Jesse's or on Ellie's face when he says that to her, it says a lot. It's like, oh fuck yeah, we might have kind of like we didn't think this through properly. Um,
Mm.
but Dina, I don't know, there wasn't really a massive amount with Dina in this episode that really kind of took me.
Yeah, fair,
She's kind of
fair.
been very
Where do you think her
sidelined.
head is at? Like, you had that moment where Ellie confesses, and we've all had like vulnerable moments with partners where we share something about ourselves deeply personal, and
Mm,
like we're being vulnerable and sharing kind of the secret that we've never told anyone. Um, and I hope you've never had this experience, but I've sure had that experience just not go the way I planned it to. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Where the partner has a bad reaction to it, and you're like, "Oh my God, that is the worst thing that could have happened." I felt like that was what happened to Ellie there. Not that it was undeserved. Like I think I didn't judge Dina for her reaction. It was a lot to process in terms of we're out here risking our lives. I just had to get a crossbow put through my leg to
yeah.
actually, while I'm carrying a child. You could have told me this information sooner. So I've no issue with Dina's reaction. But where do we think they're at? Like, do you think there's some irreparable damage here, or
No, I think her giving her the bracelet was very much look, this is fucked up, but I do care about you still, and I do want you to be
mm,
safe. I think it was just that one scene alone is look, we're gonna have to talk about this shit, but I think they're okay. Um, yeah, it's like, do you ever do you ever tell a lie by accident, and then you have to keep that lie going? It's kind of like that.
3 times on this show already? I do it all the time. I've never told a partner, but I'm a virgin. I've never had a partner. I'm so glad we're being honest.
I was
Sorry, yes, I know what you're in there. Yeah.
I was like listening to a Reddit story today, and they were talking. Some guy was talking about that he told this his girlfriend at the time was trying to give him a peanut butter smoothie, and he was like, she kept pushing on him. He was like, no, 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 and then he's like, I'm allergic to peanuts, and he's not. He fucking loves peanut butter, and he couldn't. He was like 6 years into the relationship, and he's like, I have a secret stash of peanut butter that I can't tell her about, and I kind of feel like that's where Ellie's at.
Okay.
With
Okay.
Joel's thing because it's like, I could have been because the cure for all of this is such. I don't even think it's that. It's kind of understated in the show how big a fuck up that is of not of Joel killing the doctor and saving Ellie in terms of selfishness for the rest of humanity as well. It's very understated that everybody who's gone through so much and lost so much needn't have had to if this had happened.
Every death that has happened, every single person, death happens a lot in this world. Every single person who dies, in theory, Joel has a hand in it, like
Yeah,
from that point on. And what makes it an interesting story is that also, if we were in Joel's situation, we're like, yeah, I'd make that decision, and that's what makes it a great story. Because
yeah,
again, there's no way you're letting your daughter, adopted daughter or not, die, especially if you've seen your actual daughter die. And that is the
yeah.
source of the greatest trauma of your life. You're not going to, you physically would not be able to do it. And that's, I guess, what makes it tragic. Where do you see, I suppose? Like, you don't know what's coming here. So what do
Mm.
you think the future has in store for Ellie and Dina? Do you think these are heading towards a happy ending, or kind of, yeah?
I couldn't tell you because I've got theories about what happened at the end of the episode.
Okay.
Um, like I know nothing right about the game at all.
That's okay. That's
So
okay.
so
This is why you can speak freely. This is non-spoiler, and I'm not going to confirm or deny.
I can't imagine Ellie was shot by Abby. I think Dina because it cuts to black and we had the shot. I think Dina shoots Abby.
Okay.
Um, maybe not like a proper kill shot, but I think she definitely shoots Abby. And cause it's this show and cause it's this game, if it's not a kill shot, Abby might kill Dina. Maybe. But that's where I kind of think it's going. I don't think there's going to be an Ellie and a Dina happy ending.
So, Dina, essentially, look, however it happens, your theory is that Dina will be another, like Jesse, another one
Yeah.
of the victims of Ellie's need for revenge. Okay, okay,
Yeah.
really interesting. I love that. I think we're at a point in the story, and again, this isn't a spoiler for the video game or what's to come, but I can tell you there is very much a point where it turns a little bit and you're like, okay, I very even as the player in the game you're playing as Ellie, you have played as Joel, and you feel Joel's death in a very personal way because it's so strange to like it's unheard of for a lot of people in gaming to have the central character that you play as die, and you're like, I'd never even get to play as them again. Like, fuck.
Yeah.
Like, so you're genuinely grieving that because like you can even feel the difference in playing as Ellie and Joel. Um, but even in saying that, you feel very much vindicated throughout Seattle day one, day two, day three. And then there is a point, and that changes for different people, where you're just like, Ellie, stop. It's like fucking stop. Like, stop. Jesse's death is part of that because it's like he did not need to die. He
No.
did not deserve to die. He's here to help you, and he was just getting out, and that's horrific. Um this is definitely the turning point. The show has to be a bit more clear in how it guides the audience towards that because, again, you don't spend as much time in it. But for me, this is pretty much that turning point of like, and it's very clear. It's like a child is now dying, um, and even when she's like trying to save the baby at the end, she's like, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to
Oh my
do, and she's
God.
just,
That's
yeah,
traumatic, man.
it
That
was
was
horrific.
awful. Yeah.
Yeah,
That
and just the comparison to like Dina being pregnant is just it's like that's what she's thinking of, and it's like this is what I'm going to be like as a parent, and it is if you continue to go down this path. Like she nearly dies at the hands of the Sephirotes, and a scene I have feelings about, but that's a
I've also
separate
got feelings
discussion.
about that scene.
Yeah. Okay, we can talk about it. Let's talk about it if we both have stuff to say. Go for it.
Yeah. I the entire her getting washed up by that massive wave onto the island. Um only to be captured. That little fucking kid though as well. Speaking of kids, like we were a kid, like annoying kids in movies we were chatting about earlier before we started the podcast. Um, that kid fucking annoyed the shit out of me as well. Fuck that kid. But it just seemed like such a waste of 5 to 7 minutes of the show to me. It was like,
Yeah.
what was the point of this? Unless
Yeah.
something happens in season three from a different perspective that puts that in a whole other light, which I don't think it will. That was a waste of time and really bad writing of like, let's just leave her. Like, really? You wouldn't just gut her as you're going? That's
Shoot her, like, yeah, literally,
yeah.
like, cut her throat, like, yeah, like, what's to stop Ellie from just turning around and, like, shooting you? Like, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
there's
like you
nothing,
left her with
yeah,
the gun and everything. It's like,
yeah,
that's bad writing.
yeah. I hated that scene. It is probably my least favorite scene of, and look, I'll discuss it in the video game section. There are echoes of a different scene, to the point that when this scene was released, like, they had a clip of this scene in the trailer, and they're like,
Yeah.
no, no, they're doing this instead of this, and it's, they're not. But, like, yeah, I there's just no point to this scene. There's nothing. It's just a waste of time. It's like it didn't achieve anything that they wouldn't have achieved otherwise, and it denied us stuff like, why not have 20 minutes of how Tommy and Jesse got to be here, and you spend
Yeah.
more time with Jesse and we empathize or stuff like that. Like there's so many other things that were pointed, and this taught us nothing. It served us nothing. It just felt like tension for the sake of
Well,
it.
this
It
this is
felt like
what
something from The Walking Dead where they just needed to have a set piece happen here because they're like, wouldn't that be cool? But it doesn't actually serve the story, the characters, the motivation, or anything like that.
someone in work was saying, because like I haven't listened to their podcast, but that in the official podcast that Druckmann was saying that this is basically the universe telling Ellie to stop of
Yes.
that
Yeah.
massive wave and like just don't go to the pier and then almost getting killed there is like just fuck, this is what's gonna, you're gonna die basically if you're gonna get there. And like I get that, but it just wasn't done very well. It and
It
you, the
was
fact
just
that you
so
need to,
distracting.
the fact
It
that
was
you need
just
to
like,
explain that as well, an average audience member is not going to get that, I don't think,
yeah.
and it just feels like a waste.
And like again, it's actually told again. I'm so sorry for bringing up the video. I know some people hate it, but it just was told better in the video game because the way it was told in the video game was it was wave after wave after wave. Like no matter
Okay.
you can't get you. So it literally does feel like even the fucking sea is telling you to stop. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you have to fight to get through it, and you're playing as Eddie as that time. So like that tells that point. But yeah, it just felt like coming next season on The Last of Us, and it's just
Mhm.
like, no, you're setting up a story that you're not going to pay off for 2 years, but you could have just done that so many different ways. You could have literally had the exact same visual of Ellie's in the boat and the bomb goes off in the island in the background. We knew what was on the island. We know where Isaac is going. We can infer that much. It's just spelling it out for us in a really unnecessary way. It was the one thing, it's a massive criticism I have of this episode. It was totally pointless, totally
Yeah.
sidetracked from the main story and didn't achieve anything. The only thing it really did achieve was the fact that Ellie, when she gets back on the boat, like goes straight for Abby again. And it's like,
Yeah.
stop, stop. Like you just nearly died, like fuck. And I get that. But then I feel that they rescued it with the next scene with Owen and Mel,
Yes.
RIP. Um Thoughts on all of this? You were saying traumatizing.
Yeah, because like this was one of those shock moments that happened when the gun goes off and you're like, oh, she shot Owen and she didn't get shot, and then you just it kind of the whatever way it's framed is phenomenal as well because you don't really notice the bullet wound in her neck till a little bit after, but her guiding Ellie through it and then kind of thinking Ellie is like she's slipping away that much that she's thinking Ellie is actually cutting her and taking the baby out. And I was like, is it out? Is it out? I was like, that is one of the most traumatizing things I've seen in a TV show
You're
in
doing
quite a
so good.
while.
You're doing so good. Like
Yeah.
just and like just going into like she's losing herself as she dies, and going into full doctor slash nurse mode. It's
Yeah.
unclear like which she is, but like the way she kind of reassures and talks is very much like she's got a bedside manner, so she's definitely not a doctor. She's a nurse. You know what I mean? But then getting into what was it? I can't remember the name, Vestaverse or something like that. You know what I mean? She kept saying that,
Yeah.
like she's just speaking medical jargon because she's losing the ability to contextualize it. She needs to talk and coach Eddie through it, and you just really felt her fade away, and then you felt the stakes of as she fades, the baby fades. But then there's also Ellie. It's like Ellie just froze and didn't try
And
anything.
couldn't do it. Like, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, that was that. Like again, it's such a incredible scene after such a
Yeah.
weird bad scene. Like,
Now, and Owen and Mel arguing as well. Abby's
mm.
done something, and presumably, is it Mel doesn't agree with it, and Owen is going to find her? Um, I think that's what the context of their argument was.
I
Um,
I can't
yeah,
speak now at this point
but
because
the fact that like Mel probably would have reasoned with Ellie, as well makes it even more tragic, I think, too, because she was probably the more kind of, um, what's the word? I suppose just like human, I suppose, or human.
she's a pacifist. She's not like
Yeah.
she like again. She is present at Joel's death, but she is present. And again, this isn't spoiling it. We You will learn more about Mel. Um, she's present in Joel's death, but she's present as a doctor. She's not
Yeah.
present as a soldier. The rest, we heard Pedro Pascal kind of infer. Who are we? You're raiders? Do we look like raiders? No, you're soldiers.
Mm,
So Pedro Pascal figured that out, but she's not a soldier.
mm.
And we saw her cry during Joel's scene. We saw her have to turn away. She's not that person. So yeah, if Ellie could be gotten through, if Ellie could be gotten to, that would be it. But again, it's just another casualty at the hands of Ellie's need for revenge and nothing else. Nobody else wants this at this stage, and it's a tragic because again, like you can't help but feel for Bella Ramsey and the performance they give as Ellie in this. Like because we do sympathize with her. We do. As an audience, love her to some degree, and feel a lot of affection for her.
In Ellie's defense in that scene as well, she gave them all of the outs
Yeah.
before he took the gun and just and went for it. Like
He's
she was
also right though. Like Joel's trick is I'm gonna make you point at the map and then I'm gonna kill you anyway. You know what I mean? Like that's Joel's thing. He's like, you're
mm,
not getting out of that scenario. So he like Owen's right in how he bargains and that it's like she's gonna kill us anyway. And she very much is. They were there at the scene of Joel's death. Now, would she have killed Mel if she knew she was pregnant? No, I don't think so.
no, I
Definitely
don't think
not.
she would have either. I hope not.
But I think she would have killed her if she wasn't pregnant. I think Mel would have had to go, oh, baby. And then Eddie would have been like, shit, Dina, right, I'm back. I'm a human again.
Yeah.
I think that would have happened. So, and that's what makes it more tragic in that. But Ellie is now, but that's a cost of Ellie's need for revenge. It's a cost of that in that she's not making rational decisions. She's doing things that she wouldn't do. She's having consequences that she doesn't want to have, and she's losing herself. So, I think that's all very powerful. Um, let's talk about Jesse. Rest in peace to
Yeah.
Jesse. Um, what were your thoughts on this? We got him very fleshed out here. Probably not as much as we would have wanted, but I suppose that Yeah, you didn't know this was coming, but did that make the death for me? I looked at it and I'm trying to put myself in a position of someone who all season has been at this exact moment. I know Jesse's gonna die in this exact episode. I've been trying to tiptoe around it in these episodes because it's the end, it's the natural end point for the story for this season. Um, so I'm trying to position myself as someone who wouldn't have watched it, and I'm like, I would not have felt after they fleshed out Jesse's character that he's about to die. How did it land for you?
Same. It was as a shocking moment. Now, maybe not as shocking as Owen and Mel, because that really took me by surprise. But then again, at the same time, it's so quick, and it's just halfway out a door, and then bam, and he's
Yes.
just gone. And you're kind of going, did he get shot in the chest? Maybe he was like, I think it was a headshot. I'm pretty sure it was a headshot, and it's just done. And then you got Tommy on the ground then as well. But I loved Jesse's flashing out though in this of kind of his aspirations of kind of leading the town as well, and um wanting to protect people, I think, as well, and kind of that community, and kind of realizing these people gave me a life and I have to give back to them. I quite liked that. That's a cool character trait for him to have. Um I his whole chat with with Ellie, I think he touched upon it earlier about the girl that came by for 2 weeks. It's like, all
You
right,
met
yeah,
a girl on holiday vibes. Oh, you wouldn't
yeah,
know her. You wouldn't know her. It's cool. Yeah, we
it's
totally fucked. Uh,
it's it's the writing, man, on some of this episode, like that in particular was like, ugh, wasn't great. Um, but I loved that what makes a good person arguments that they had up
mm,
in the building when they're deciding with Tommy. Um, and I did love that he was really trying to convince Ellie as well. I was like, don't go after Abby. He was another line of defense that Ellie was just like, fuck this. I have to go kill Abby. Even after everything that happened as well, and kind of agreeing, right, fucked up with Nora. Um, we have to just kind of go. And then we'll get Tommy and we'll just get out of here. And then yeah, just that her her figuring out the wheel the on the water bit as well, I thought was kind of poorly written too.
mm. Yeah.
It felt a bit, what am I even trying to liken this to? I was like, do you know in
Whale ex machina.
in Independence Day, yeah, when Jeff Goldblum, his dad says something about a common cold, and then he figures out how to put a virus into the alien spaceship. It was it was kind of that, the moment of like, water, wheel, water, of course. It's like, I've been so stupid. But yeah, it's I what I'm trying to get to is some of the writing was pretty shitty on this, but
Yeah, that's
I do
fair.
quite like the Jesse's like slightly fleshed out character in this episode. I just wanted more. I was still really shocked by his death because I did quite like Jesse, especially after some of the conversations they gave him. But
Is
um,
that the point though? Like, I guess, and I've got to kind of, because again, like I'm coming into this knowing that Jesse is a definite cutoff point. They were
yeah,
never messing with that moment. Um, and that's why it works, I suppose, because it's so you just don't see major characters die that way. It's such an afterthought. Like we barely
yeah.
have time to process it. Ellie barely has time to process that one of her best friends just died right in front of her. She's still got to react. She's still got to go. Tommy doesn't have time to process that. Like, the person who's going to essentially lead Jackson one day is just dead, laying on the floor right there. We don't have time to react or think about it, and that leads to confusion. So I thought it was a really effective, shocking scene. Is that worth the payoff of? Because again, we don't get to know Jesse now, and I guess that's the point. In that we would have hoped now to quite like him and spend time with him, but that makes the death more shocking. Is the shock worth the loss? Like, does the trade off work for you right now?
With 7 episodes now, I wanted one more episode maybe of, like I said, Tommy and Jesse, a centric episode of them getting to Seattle. I think would have been really, really good. And just having them converse for the episode. No, like you can have a few action set pieces and just an episode of mostly them, I think would have been great. Um, what made that last scene kind of really bad was like the amount of tension that built up between Ellie and Jesse, kind of arguing for most of this episode, and they finally come to a bit of a peace and kind of like, I would burn the world down for you.
Mm,
Eddie says that during his like, and he knows that, and that you're finally like, oh, they're on the same page again for the most
yeah,
part, and then just what 10 seconds later he's gone. That
yeah,
was really shocking. But then you've also got Tommy then on the ground. You're like, shit, it's Abby. She killed Joel. She's after killing Jesse. Is like, is she gonna kill Tommy? Like, I really didn't know what the fuck was gonna happen at the end of that.
yeah, yeah.
Um,
And I want to get into some speculation for you, but just to round off on Jesse, I'm like, I like it. I would have liked to seen a bit more. I would have
yeah,
liked to even see like because there could have been a story told about like, look, this is the consequence of Eddie making this decision. Do you know what I mean? You could have done an extra episode in here, like after the Nora scene. I think that's a shocking enough scene to leave us. Let us leave Ellie for an episode, and
yeah,
let us go now to. We know now that Tommy and Jesse came here. So now let's circle back to that and see, look at what the shit they had to go through because of Ellie and her
yeah.
cult, you know. And I would have played into the scene a lot more. So I would have liked to see that. But I don't know, this that really works for me. I really like it. I think the way he got a very unceremonious death is tragic and but it inspires us to talk about him, kind of pay tribute now, and I imagine that inspires a lot of feelings in the people who loved him as well. Um, he is this story's version of Neville Longbottom. Do you know what I mean? And you're like, is he actually the hero? And just no one gives him credit. Is he actually the like? We all say like everyone's a bad guy. No one thinks Jesse's a bad guy. You know what I mean? Everyone
Yeah,
is like
fair.
he's never done anything bad. Although like the one thing which gave me a bit of reservations is, are you really a good guy when you tell people you're a good guy? That gives off like nice guy incel vibe. I don't get girls because I'm so nice. You know what I mean?
Mm.
There's a bit of that. But like whatever, I'll forget that. Um. Like he's so the subtle things about Jesse that I really like are how cool he is with the situation with Ellie and Dina. I'm like, that's just a sound guy. He's able to
Yeah,
put his own feelings aside and kind of go, look, you love each other, that's
yeah.
fine. His reaction when
But I'm still
after
gonna be the dad. Is like, you
yeah,
guys, but it's still my baby, so I want to raise it too.
he's
And you're
stepping
like,
up as well,
yeah,
you know what I mean?
100%,
Like,
yeah.
yeah, he's not like there's not any hesitation about that. He's not getting pissy, he's not taking it out. He's taking on all the responsibility and getting none of the reward because that's who he is. Um, I also love like that scene from earlier in the season where it's like, you know what you did is fucked up. You know what I mean? And I'm like, he's such a good guy, you know what I mean? He's just not taking things personally. The emotional intelligence, like guessing Dina was pregnant in that. The fact that like he admits here that he voted against Ellie's kind of
Mm,
bill, but the fact that he still helped Ellie to put her best foot forward, like shows I don't actually agree with you, but you're my friend and you want this and this means a lot to you. So even though I'm going to vote against you, I'm still going to help you and then let the cards fall where they may. And
yeah,
if you somehow get this to pass, I will be there for you. You know what I mean? I'll respect that. Despite the fact that I don't personally think this is the right thing to do. Um, just a good guy. And credit to young Manzino, who at the start of the season I had reservations about, but I think he has actually made Jesse here, as much as we want to see him fleshed out, he's much more fleshed out than the person we knew in the games. Like this is someone who they've actually improved upon as a character than they did
okay.
in the games. Um, and he gave him a lot of depth, and I think that's a credit to young Manzino's performance. So I just want to give him a shout out. I think he's done excellently here. Um, one, one quick thing like that we haven't touched on is wolves and the Seraphites. Like, are you taking a side right now? Is there anything where you're like, you know, this is like kind of the side that I'm kind of more relating to, or how are you feeling about kind of that setup, or is that side of the story connecting with you? Is this something you're interested in? Because a lot of people like in this part of the story, like in the game and so on, they were like, yeah, I don't really care. Like they're not the people that I'm a part of, but like it sets up for some really cool set pieces, so you kind of go along with it. Is it connecting with you though? And does any particular side connect with you?
I haven't been given enough time with either faction. Now
Hmm.
maybe season three will flesh out Isaac a little bit more if we are getting to spend time the 3 days before this day three. Um, because it goes very extreme of Isaac just leading a team of people to bomb an island. But yeah, it's I don't really care all that much, but I suppose if I'm gonna pick a side, it's gonna be the Wolves because fuck that kid on the island. So yeah, that's for that reason only I'll be Team Isaac.
Kev hates a
Um,
psycho kid. He can't stand them.
really hated that kid. Also, that was
Yeah.
such a weird scene as well.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, yeah, it is. It's tough to connect with. I think the only thing we can do and we can infer from this season is, and again, this isn't me speaking from the game because this is kind of show original stuff. Remember the scene where we saw Isaac torturing the kid,
yeah.
and and again, like we will get stuff filled out in season three. We will. Um, but do you remember the point I made where it's like the kid convinced Isaac of his argument and he made Isaac feel urgent was the word I use. So
Mm,
we need to do something. And that's now we're seeing the payoff to that. That's what I
okay.
was getting at there. So that's what's happening there. And yes, it will be filled out to do
He
that.
set a
Oh, go
he's
ahead.
just set a paranoia off basically in Isaac of like,
He's
oh
told that he convinced him of his argument. He's like, people come over to us all the time, but they never come from us to you.
yeah.
Like, and Isaac's like, if we play this out over a long enough course, they probably have the numbers, unless we can kill them all. And I think that's where Isaac's head's at.
The show never shows that though. Every time you see a wolf with the Seraphites, they're murdering the fuck out of them in a most awful
Yeah,
way as
and,
well.
and that's why I was kind of interested in how you felt because again, that's a structural change to the story in that we don't get much of that to this point. It's just kind of hinted at. Like again, in
Mm,
the game, you meet the Sephirotes, you're aware of them, but there's not much. And then like where season three goes, filled in a lot of the backstory, so it's clunkily told in that they're
yeah,
kind of giving us bits here to kind of reassure us that we're going to be getting more into that. So it does flesh out. Like you will definitely have feelings about it, like come season three. But yeah, I'm not mad about the way that they got there. I don't think
yeah.
that it's connecting. That's why I wanted to get your thoughts on is this actually working for you? Because I can fill in the blanks. I know the blanks to fill in. But if you don't have them blanks, does it just seem random?
It does seem a little random that it's just happening in the background, and
Yeah,
I don't really know why
yeah,
that much. And I'm well, we can talk about maybe speculations after this, but yeah, it's not really working for me, but I'm hoping, yes, like you said, season three will hopefully give a bit more context for
yeah.
it.
We
Um,
we we'll get to that, but before we get on to season three, um, we have the full picture of season two. This is what we
yeah,
waited 2.5 years for, essentially. Um, and it doesn't feel. I don't feel like we're where we were after season one.
no,
Um, but I guess the question is there are reservations we have with the show, and I think we're getting very open to criticizing it. And it's certainly lost its halo in terms of we would have seen this as a perfect show. I remember at the start of this, when we started these season two conversations, I was like, we're going to be talking about this with The Sopranos, Breaking Bad, as in the pantheon of great TV shows. And I don't necessarily feel that way. We could still. And this could just be The Wire season two, as in the season where it just dips a little bit and then it gets amazing again.
Mm.
Um, but thoughts on the full picture of season two? How are you kind of feeling about it now?
Um, it it had its it had a couple of really big highs, but a fair amount of lows in it for me. Um, I do think the writer's strike hurt this a lot. I think 7 episodes hurt this a lot. And I think the 2 year gap hurt this a lot as well. And I'm worried that season three it'll be it'll be hurt if they do another 2 year gap as well, because I don't think people have the time and patience for it.
Okay, interesting. I'm not as down, I suppose, on it. I love being in this world. I love this
Mm.
story. I love the discussions we get to have as a result of it. For me, I'm like, this is not season one, um, but it is. If The Last of Us at 75% is still better than 80% of the television we get. You know what I mean? I feel when we do our top 10 shows of the year, this probably will squeak onto the list, but it's not going to be near the top. It's not going to be one of the like top two or three that we're talking about in the same way season one was. I remember when we did this the year of season one. I think me and you had this in the bear, but we just had
Yeah,
it opposite directions.
yeah,
I don't think it's at that level, but I still think it's a very, very good and well made show, and I think it's jarring at times. That's what this is. It is jarring. It is uneven. It is structurally a bit weird, but I don't dislike anything when I watch it. I quite enjoy watching it at all times. It's when I kind of go away from it and go, how do I feel about that, or do I feel the way I need to feel, and kind of get into analytical mode that I'm like, yeah, it's not like this show is up here for me and it's just not getting me in that way at the moment, but I don't necessarily think there's a problem. It's going to be really interesting getting into season 3, and I do want to kind of discuss and get your thoughts on where you think we're going here. Having said all of that, though, just to kind of make a point of it, right? Episode 2, and the fact that they killed Joel off in episode 2 and like had the balls to get rid of Pedro Pascal at that stage, and the entire Joel and Eddie flashback episode, um, huge wins, and that is fantastic. So when the show is operating on all fronts, it operates on a level maybe unto itself. It just struggled to maintain that level throughout this, but there are some huge wins here. Isabel Merced, I was not expecting to fall in love with Dina here. I was not
yeah.
expecting to be as obsessed with Dina because she's quite a side character. Like Jesse, they fleshed out a lot more than they did in the game. They've actually this is one of my favorite games of all time. It's maybe I would argue that it should be one of the best games of all time and discussed in those kind of hushed tones. And they've outdone some of the characters here. Bella Ramsey delivered like in a huge, huge way whenever they were asked to do so. Um, and there was also, let's not forget, we had some great zombie innovations throughout this too. Like, we were talking about like the stalkers, the kind of the
Yep.
tendrils, it operated really well in a way I don't feel that it did in season one. So there's a lot to like here. It's just uneven. It just made some choices that made you go, and like it lost its sheen of perfection that I think we had around it with season one.
Mm.
And sometimes that's tough to take, but I think history will be kind to it. I'll gladly rewatch this a number of times because I love the world, I love the visuals, I love the actors, I love the story, and I can just forgive the rest. It's just not perfect, and sometimes we can over criticize because of that, because we have such high expectations. It's like when your friend tells you, "This is the best movie ever, man. This is you're going to be your favorite movie. It's going to be one of your top 5 movies of all time." And you go into the movie like, "Oh my God, this is going to be the best," and it's just a good movie, and you kind of come out of it and go, "Ah." Was
Yeah,
that shit, or did I just build myself up to? And I think that that's where we'll feel on this. I think if we rewatch this a year from now, we're like, oh, that's actually quite a good series of television. There was a lot I liked about it. But it's just, we walked in expecting 10 out of 10, and we just didn't get that.
yeah.
So
It's
it's a little bit deflating.
it's a season like you said earlier that's very uneven, and you said as well like doing having the balls to kill off Joel in episode 2. That's the only place they could have killed him now, really. If you look at the entire season
Yeah.
after we've finished it now, you're like, yeah, that makes sense to that. The only other way they could have done it is intersplice in episode 6 a bit more
Mm,
into other episodes rather than having its own episode, and you could have maybe done the Joel death in episode 3. Um,
mm.
but for the most part, yeah, like that is my biggest criticism. Like the writing has been a bit off in certain episodes as well, but I do think this is going to be like the Bear season 3 for me, where when season 3 comes out and we get the other perspective of day one in Seattle, I think it'll complement the season a lot more. That's what I'm hoping for as well. And I think the Bear
Okay.
season 4 is gonna complement season 3 a bit more because it felt
Okay.
like half a season. And I'm
That's
hoping
it.
that's what it's gonna be.
You hope. Ooh, it's gonna be really interesting. It's gonna be really interesting. Um, Catherine O'Hara pretty much confirmed. So things we know. Catherine O'Hara pretty much confirmed that next season is the Abby story. So she doesn't expect to be back next season.
Okay.
Um, Craig Mazin is already talking about how they'll actually probably need a season four of this to wrap up the story. Um, so with all of that context in mind and not having played the video game, and then what I'll do is I'll give you some teasers and hints, but I won't talk about it. I will not get. I promise you, if you're listening and you don't want anything spoiled, I will not spoil anything. I will just
Mm.
set up and give you some perspective of things to kind of wrap your brain around without talking about any plot whatsoever. But I want to get your thoughts, not knowing what do you think is going to happen. Where do you think we're going to go? Where's your head at? How are you? Give us some speculation
For season three.
for season three.
Um, well, it's clearly going to be Abby centric. By the very last scene in that. So, um, I suppose I think we're going to see some dissension, I guess, with the ranks of her with Owen and Mel, because of that argument. Um, I'd like to see more of Isaac and why he trusts Abby so much and why he thinks she's such a good leader. If when it's not even if when he dies, because he knows it's basically a suicide mission he's going on. And I suppose like the other thing I would just really want is just a lot more context of why the wolves hate the Sephiroth so much. I'd be happy with a theme of that going through next season of the wolves and the Sephiroths and why they really hate each other. But I do want like
Okay.
Abby as well, where she is, or she's just such an epiphany right now. Like it's of we don't know really anything about Abby at all.
What do you think's going on? So all we know about Abby from this episode is Isaac tipped his hat, as in we don't know where she is. What do you think's going on? And then we got a little bit of the Owen and Mel conversation. So what do you think? Where's your head canon speculating on what's happening with Abby? If you had to guess.
If I had to guess, I think Abby might have her sights set on Jackson.
Okay. Okay. Really interesting. And the funny thing is as well, like when you know it, you see the bits of foreshadowing that they have, and it does make sense, and it's like, oh, that's very good. But I just wanted to get a lens for where your head
Also,
was at.
sorry, speaking of Jackson, one other thing that they did incredibly well this season was the big battle in Jackson as well. I have to
Yeah.
shout out that as well. That was fucking phenomenal. And you were saying that wasn't in the game at all.
No, that's total show original.
Yeah, that's
The sh-
brilliant. That was
Another thing I have to give the show credit for, and again, a lot of people are getting tribal in this, and again, I think it's just the expectations versus reality element because the show original elements still work. Every bit
mm,
of it, like the scene in the hospital where you found out the person had to kill their son, um, like
yes.
the Isaac or origin scene, like that whole Battle of Jackson, like everything that they add to this is just they're knocking it out of the park. These are great value adds,
Mm,
that are totally new, and even someone like me who's obsessed with this and the game and has played it multiple times, like that gives stuff to me. So again, like I can't hate this show. It's not bad by any means. It succeeds on so many levels. I just want it to be perfect, and when it's not, then I get disappointed. Here's what I'll tell you about season three, and I don't know what they're gonna do, obviously, okay, but this is just to set your expectations, and I won't give anything away about plot. I promise you that, okay. All I will say is that it's interesting that you go into this with the expectations that, oh, it's gonna fill in the blanks and stuff like that. What I would say is, and I've actually started now playing since watching. I watched the finale. I got screeners ahead of time, so I watched it on Thursday, and then I immediately started jumping into because I finished playing the game like at that exact moment because I knew that would be the ending. So I immediately got into playing the next part
yeah.
of the game, and it's very good. It's very good. But now I'm playing it with the lens of, oh, this is going to be season three. And my genuine first impression was, this is going to be very different. It's very, very different. Like, we aren't going to see a lot of the characters that we love in season three, maybe at all. And if we do, we'll see them briefly. Like it is going to be focusing very much on people we don't know or we've only briefly met, and it is very different. And this is a comparison you'll love. Do you remember Resident Evil, the B side of the game? So
Yeah,
it's the same game, but it's what the other character did.
yeah, love
That's
that.
what this is. It's the B side. And they're making a
Okay,
whole season out of it. And they pretty much said that's what the season's going to be. And then it's all going to get brought together in season four, and that's where we finish it. Um, that this is the B side. So we're literally going to get Seattle day one, day two, day three.
so
What
like
else happened?
that big firefight that they see in the distance, Jesse and or not Jess, Dina and Ellie when they're like about to go in. I'm presuming we get to see maybe what that firefight is about.
There's so many bits that you don't even think of
Okay.
that you've seen in this that you're like and do you remember when like you played it in Resident Evil, you're like, I didn't even think there was a whole other side to that, but Jesus Christ, like it's
Yeah.
that. So you get the other perspective and it does fill out the blanks, but also it's going to be such a risk because I don't even think we're going to see much Bella Ramsey in this, which is wild.
Mm.
um
Is it kind
so
of like Feast for Crows in Game of Thrones, the book? Because like
yeah,
after
well, I didn't like that, whereas I love this story,
okay,
but it's going to test the audience because it's going to feel like a completely different TV show and it's going off characters we
with
haven't met.
with the
It's
2 year
also
gap, it's
quite
ballsy.
it's really ballsy and it's
Yeah.
gonna test people, but like it's a great story. It's really fucking good. And it also feels like you're getting a new story set in the Last of Us universe, but at the same standard as the stories we're used to. So it feels fresh too. But it's
Yeah.
asking a lot of the audience to kind of ask us to buy into these characters and then to just move away from them for an entire season. Like it's big. But then there is the parts that you're like, I have more questions on that, and they're gonna answer the questions, even if you didn't even know you had them. There's also one thing to watch out for, and I won't give any details around what it is, but there is an element that is very political that when this was released in 2020, this was an appropriate storyline that could be had, and it was tackling and it felt edgy and stuff like that. That now in Trump's America, I don't know if it's gonna work. I don't
Oh
know if they'll
shit.
have to completely rewrite it, but it's a really important element of the story. So that's going to be interesting to see how they tackle that. That's one thing I'm looking out for. Um, so they're yeah, and they just have to stay like maybe they just have to stay away from it because it's going to get really toxic because it's the type of topic that no matter how and what way you do it, you're just going to get people being dicks. You're just going to get people like so that's one to watch out for as well. 2027 we'll discuss more. Um
And I'll have played it by then as well.
you better, yeah, do please. We're gonna raise the siren now. We're gonna talk about the video game. So there will, I won't get spoilery because I don't want to ruin it for Kev as well, but I'm giving you all the warnings. Even if you're only half listening, we're going to talk about spoilers. If you haven't played the video game, this is where we leave you. Thank you for following our Season 2 coverage. If you have played the video game, we're going to talk a bit looser here, but again, consider Kev hasn't seen it and I don't want to ruin Season 3 or the video game for him. So I'll give you like first off the Jesse backstory completely original, not in the game. Um so again I spoke about Ellie going to the aquarium and the difference with the big waves were kind of taking her out. And it's like the little things they have in this is so beautiful. Like the fact that do you know when she snuck in through the roof?
Yes.
That's a scene in the game. Like you remember playing that level because it's like a mystery that you have to do. You're like, how the fuck do I get into this building? And so when I saw it, I'm like, ah! They got that. That's such a little thing, but I remember being stuck on that for an hour and feeling so fucking stupid. So it's such a cool little Easter egg that they threw in there. Um, the Seraphite scene is brand new. Although it's really similar to an important scene we get in the game. Um, in a way that had us thinking they were going to cut it. It's so similar, and it's really annoying how similar it is because it almost ruins the other scene. We'll still get that scene in season three,
Mm.
um, but it's Abby centric. Do you know what I mean? And it's like, why would you do that? and then just redo the scene in like season three. It does it's so similar, but they are still going to do it by the way that they did it
Yeah.
because yeah, because you wouldn't get rid of that scene. That's it. Just makes it more infuriating. Um, the sniper scene is a sneaky famous one, and I'll give you a little clue now. That's one of those scenes that we will see the other perspective of
Class.
it.
Okay.
So, like, if that felt very random, like that's what you can expect from season two, where it's like that's just a little throwaway thing where it's like you just hear gunshots and you're like, that's Tommy. You're gonna get that filled out, but from another perspective. So
Right.
it's really interesting. The Ellie and Jesse debate that they had then, that's very faithful. Like they fleshed it out a little bit as they are kind of doing this, but that's very faithful. They pretty much have a very similar debate and they go their separate ways to the point that Jesse was like, I really hope you make it. And that's the last thing that they say before they go their separate
Mm,
ways. Here's the bit that I'll give you, that I'll give away. Non-spoiler, but actually, a little bit. But I'm gonna do it in a way that
it's
doesn't
okay.
pay
It's
out
okay,
a
man.
lot, but annoys you. We didn't just have Abby in, and this is what's really fun, and you're gonna appreciate this in rewatches. You think you just saw Abby in the end scene?
Mm,
I counted four minimum points where Abby was involved in this story.
no way.
Yeah, that's the thing. There's different things where you're like, because now I'm watching it where I'm like, where's Abby now? Where's Abby now? What's Abby doing? Where's Abby? She's all over this, but then there's just the other perspective. Like, so this episode is going to be very interesting when they do the like for like when they do Abby Seattle Day 3. It's gonna be like, It's gonna be literally the B game version of this. Like, there's a lot of different points where Abby's in this, and the last little nugget I'll give you from the video game is there is one more character who we haven't met who's also in the room at the very end as Abby points the gun at Ellie. There's another
Oh,
character who we haven't met, and it's very clever how they conceal it. So that's interesting. So,
okay.
um, yeah, there is another character. Like I that's why when you started to say Dina, I was like, "Ooh, is he getting close to it?" Like, so, there's another character in the room. They're just completely off camera.
It's
But like, yeah,
Gail.
Kale, the killer. She's a little shit.
It's that kid from the island.
It's like, "Whoa." And then it's like, fucking kid, this guy didn't even speak. That's that. That's season two. Kev, we did it. We did the thing.
Yeah.
Um, Kev, whatever we thought about the season, I've really enjoyed these chats as always, and
And
I'll look forward to continuing them with you for season three.
yeah, man, me too. I've always looked forward to Tuesdays for recording these and chatting The Last of Us. Even though sometimes I feel like I can be maybe a little bit down on the episodes, I did enjoy season two for the most part, and I do think after what you've been saying there, after season three comes out, if it is a kind of a complement piece to season two, I will love it a bit more, I think. I think when you get the context of that, and sometimes it is just it's having a bit of patience with certain things, but like these 2 year gaps, man, they just fucking kill me.
Do you know what you can do in that 2 years?
Play the
Right?
game.
I'm gonna really annoy you now. First, watch Severance.
I will
There's
do
a
that actually.
bookmark.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Then play the game, right? Trust me. Experience it for yourself. It won't spoil it. It will be like a compliment. This is the one thing I said. There are some things where I'm like, no, like Game of Thrones, for example, even though the show didn't really pay it off, I'm like, watch the show and then read the books. You know what I mean? But
Mm,
this is like, do the source material first. It tells it in a much better way, in a way that you're going to connect with, and the show is a good compliment. So, like, yeah, trust
yeah.
me. And anyone listening, if you haven't played the game and you're here like a psychopath, listen to the video game section. Um, then yeah, play the game. I really recommend it. In the meantime, but Kev, there's so much content as well. Considering next year as well, we're gonna get stuff like Game of Thrones and Rings of Power back. Yeah, or House of the Dragon, Rings of Power. Like, there's still a
Yeah.
lot. of content. So yeah, there's a lot that we're not getting this year because we're like, because remember last year when we were talking about all this and we're like, can't believe I have to wait 2 years for that. So like it goes by quickly.
Yeah,
We'll be fine.
it's just
Case
an
in
off season.
point, yes, case in point, we have the Bear and Squid Game in just a few weeks.
That's nuts to me.
June
Every time
26th and 27th, exactly a month away.
stuff like this during the summer, I was kind of just either creeps up on us or just completely takes us by surprise of like, oh, there's like a month here of just insane TV.
We have that, and then we have July, which is Superman and Fantastic Four. So like, there's a
Yeah.
lot coming. Like, don't worry, we're all good. Um, Interesting one for you. They're two binge drops, so they're gonna just drop season 4 and season 3 of the Bear and Squid Game like one day after another.
Oh, they're just binge
Yeah,
ones.
they
Okay.
always release them in binges. So how do you think you're gonna watch it? Are you gonna like dabble in like an episode here, an episode here? Are you gonna watch one? Are you gonna watch the other?
Is
What's kind of how are you
is
feeling? What
the
hold you
Bears
to
out
this?
the Bears out first, isn't it?
Bears out the day
At the day
before, so you've
before.
got one day to watch 10 episodes.
Thing is about the Bears, I will probably binge the
You can
entire
do
thing in
that.
a
It's
day.
doable. I've done it. I did it with season 2. I literally,
Yeah.
I sat
And
down,
I
and it was the day I watched Barbenheimer. I came home, I watched Oppenheimer, then Barbie back to back, and I'm like, I'll make dinner and I'll watch one new episode of The Bear. And 5 hours later, and that included that Christmas episode, I walked away traumatized but loving
yeah, yeah.
it.
Because
So yeah,
most of
maybe
the
that's
Bear
what.
episodes, they're only a half hour long, maybe
Yeah.
35 to 40 minutes max. So you can fly through it. Um, and it's one of those shows where it does leave you on a, I have to watch the next one. I have to watch the next one. So I'll probably spread Squid Game out maybe a little bit more. But
Okay.
the Bear I'm doing all in one. You got it.
Well, we'll catch up anyway about it all.
Yeah.
I'm sure, and yeah, we'll have loads to discuss. So we're not stuck for content options. In the meantime, Kev, end the plug, or if you don't, and you're just particularly enjoying and want to shout out.
Where yes, I'm just gonna plug our gigs again. We're fan club. We're playing in Cork on June 13th, and we're doing Dublin on October 25th. So tickets are available for those shows. And then just I'm watching Rebels at the moment, as we've been discussed during the week. I've just started season 3, and it's fucking unreal. I've heard you and Jared talking about it loads, and after Andor, there was a Star Wars kind of hole missing in my life. So,
What a way.
yeah, so I'm watching Rebels and it's fucking brilliant. So anybody that's like, ah, it's the animation one, the animated side of it, and I'm not really that into it. I have watched a bit of Clone Wars, but I don't think you don't really have needed to see a lot of Clone Wars to kind of
You can
appreciate
dip
it.
in and out.
Yeah, Rebels though is just a joy from start to finish. It's really, really good.
What
Um,
what an option to have to kind of
yeah.
lean back on to binge when kind of you're in that void after your show's end. So,
Yeah,
excellent stuff,
especially in
Kev.
the same time frame as Andor as well. It's fucking class. Yeah.
Amazing. Kev, always a pleasure. Follow Kev on socials and follow Fan Club as well. Listen to them on Spotify. Go to their gigs. Always a pleasure to have these chats with you. Next time, guys, on page 180, we'll be back later this week, probably for the last podcast for a while, because I've been doing 2 podcasts a week fairly solid since WrestleMania, and I haven't taken any break, which I need. But it's been a while since we've done a sports show, so we've got the Champions League final coming up, and we want to kind of catch up with Kento as well. So we're going to have a sports show out probably by the end of the week. And then I'm going to be done for a while. Except for the new movie reviews we're dropping as well, because we got rid of the monthly movie show, and we're just going to be doing quick reviews. So we're putting that on the podcast feed and the socials as well. So if you want to kind of get a bite-sized 2-3 minute max movie review, I'll kind of be dropping them as I watch movies. So keep an eye out as well. You'll have more than enough of me even in a break, and we're getting into SummerSlam season as well. So I am planning
Yeah.
away. We have some exciting stuff in the pipeline for low blows, so keep an eye on that. Kev, thank you for joining us and having
Thank
these
you.
conversations over the past 7 weeks. He's been Kev Keen. I've been Ger Legged. Until next time, this has been Page 180, and Kev, we need to go home.